Hey everybody, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, we recently poured a patio for my lovely mom. Now she needs a set of steps.
Welcome back to my Dusty Builder channel. My name's Tom. In this video, I'm going to show you how we built these beautiful exposed aggregate treads. We built these treads out of leftover concrete from a patio we poured this summer, and I think they came out beautiful. If you want to make good-looking, slip-resistant, durable treads, this is something you can do yourself, and I'll show you how. Check it out.
This video is going to have three main parts. First, I'll show you how we made the treads. Next, I'll show you how we made the platform for the treads. And then finally, I'll show you the handrail system we put in. And then if you stick around towards the end of the video, I'll show you an easy method that I use to make sure I'm installing the handrails at the proper height. You don't want to miss it. Here's a look at the concrete we use for our patio. If you notice, the aggregate's really small. Now the aggregate's just pea gravel. That's what gives the exposed aggregate look. We placed it in these forms we made. We let it sit up for about an hour. Then we sprayed a surface retarder on top. This is going to prevent the top from curing, and we're going to be able to wash away that cream, and we're going to have that nice pretty surface. You can also use Coca-Cola, just plain old pop, and that works just as well. We let everything set up for about 5 hours. Then we came back with a pressure washer and we washed the cream of the surface away. And you can see what it left. We have that beautiful exposed aggregate look. We also washed away the treads. A few days later, we come back and pop off the forms, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
This is typical of the form that I made. This one's a little bit smaller. I actually didn't video making my forms because frankly I didn't think it was going to come out that good. But this is the same depth. So I made 13-inch deep treads. Mine were 5 feet wide, but these will be almost 3. So this is what I used. This is 3/4 inch thick.
So to make concrete treads that are 2 inches thick, our forms have to be 2 3/4 inch thick. All right, so we're going to mark 2 3/4 at the bottom of the board, 2 3/4 up here. Then we're going to set a straight edge on our lines, make a nice straight cut, and this will be our part of our form. This will be the side. We've got our holes pre-drilled, and we're just going to screw into the side of the base. This melamine's nice to use because it's a nice smooth surface, and after the concrete sets up, it's really easy to take the forms apart. The only other thing I did is I used caulk on the inside corners, and that helps the finished product have nice round corners. Otherwise, if they're sharp, they could chip.
Cool. So we got a half and half mix. So we need a little water. So you got to mix it up with your hands. Here, try to mix that up.
Oh, yeah.
See how it looks.
After we pull the forms apart, no matter how good you do at tapping the sides of the forms, you're going to have little holes. So we're just mixing up some grout to fill in these little holes here. You just use your fingers and jam in grout to the holes. To get that exposed aggregate look on the face of the steps, I used a grinder with a grinding wheel, and it polished those steps beautifully, and I think it came out really nice.
That'll look all right.
So we have our treads built, and they look sweet. Now we have to build a structure for the treads. We have to build the risers. So I'm doing that out of pressure-treated lumber. Now, if you're going to attempt to do a project like this, you can use typical stringers. You could make the treads 10.5 or 11 inches deep and get away with regular stringers. I'm doing a deeper tread because I feel like it's safer for my mom.
So we're in the Dusty Builder residence. We're being assisted by Josie. And I'll show you what happens if we put a deeper tread on standard stair stringers. So if this was a 13-inch deep tread, we'd have a 1-inch overhang. And if we look over here, we have a little mark where 13 will bring us. This is our mark at 13. And the farther we go, the closer we get to the end of the stair. Code is we need 5 inches of meat to meet code. So with that deeper tread, we're at 4 inches. So, I mean, it would still work, but, you know, I wanted to build these things nice and sturdy, so that's why I did the platform.
I'm adding some extra blocking. This is going to create extra support for the posts for the handrails. I also added some diagonal blocking. That's going to make sure that our platform stays nice and square and it's not going to move around. Here's a final look at our platform. Everything's braced and this thing's really nice and rigid. For the bottom of our structure here, I'm putting in zip tape. Hopefully that tape is just extra insurance so that nothing rots on the bottom of our base. A test fit our beautiful tread, and it's a perfect fit. Okay, got the first piece test fitted on there. Let's see. This is going to be our decorative skirt board. And it's going to be flush. And it's that way on the other side too. All right, so we're going to build our next riser. So this is just going to set on top of our base platform. And then I'm going to screw the two together with just a piece of wood. It's just going to act as a cleat and combine the two together. We're going to test fit our last tread. And we're going to celebrate. Everybody's going to give it a test go.
Isn't that nice?
Fancy!
Yeah, no big deal, just going up and yeah.
Let's get into the weeds a little, some of the specifics. Our total rise is 21 3/4 inches tall. That's the distance from the patio to the threshold of the door. Divide that by 3, and we have 3 7 1/4 inch steps. We made our treads 2 inches thick. That means the riser is 5 1/4 inch thick for a total of 7 1/4. And we mentioned our treads are 13 inches deep, so that means each platform we want to be 12-inch deep, and that'll give us 1 inch overhang on the nose of the tread. So that first platform was 24 inches deep. And then the finish width was 5 feet wide. If you want even more detailed information, check out my blog, dustybuilder.com. I'll write an article on the project that hopefully fills in any unanswered questions you may have. To protect our tread, we're going to use a nice stain. This is the same stain that we put on the patio. Here's a look at it. And I think it looks nice. It's a nice rich color. All right, it's time to build our handrails. For this newel post, we're just making a 1-inch notch. And typically, I wouldn't do this with a deck, but with our concrete treads, there's really no way to secure it to the concrete. So I'm making this notch so it's going to basically kind of grab on to the concrete tread. I'm going to cut it as much as I can with a table saw, finish with a circular saw, and we got a little meat left over, but we're going to clean that up with a saw and a chisel and then sand it. And then also we're going to pre-drill for our carriage bolts, and I got those marked. So we'll pre-drill for those. We're just going to do a quick sand. We're not going to get carried away. And we're going to use a square just to make sure that we don't have any wonkiness going on. I had a little bit. I'm going to clean it up with a chisel. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we don't want it rocking on the side of the step. It'd be bad. So once we're all set, we're going to drill our holes for the carriage bolts. To ensure that the drill bit stays in the center, you see I started with a smaller drill bit, then I worked my way up to the bigger one. Then we got a nice fit for our bolt, and the head will go past the wood there. I'm going to use my lovely mom to help lift heavy concrete. And you see we have the PVC trim on the side, and I wanted that perfectly flush with the side of the concrete. And that makes for a perfect spot to fit our newel post. We're going to mark our location for the carriage bolt. Then we're going to drill through all the blocking there, and then we'll have a nice solid spot to screw our newel post into. We're going to set that first newel post and hand tighten everything. Then we're just going to confirm that the newel post is exactly plumb and level. Then we're going to drill for our second carriage bolt, because once that's set, this thing's not going anywhere. And to finish the hole, I need my longer drill bit here to get through all that blocking. Dead nuts. Now we get to tighten everything down with no room to do so. You see I have two different tools here. Once I get everything tight with that small little wrench that I cut off the end, I get it as tight as I can with that socket. And then it's time to do the other side. So to secure the newel post at the top of the stairs, it's going to be a challenge because I can't get my hand in there. So I'm taking the front of the step off there. And it shouldn't move anything. I added some extra blocking so everything stays in place. And then once I set that tread on, I should be able to slide that riser back in and screw everything back together. But what do you think? You think lag bolts would have been a better idea? I could have left everything together and just used lag bolts. But I felt carriage bolts were stronger. That's why I went through this extra effort. So I don't know. What do you think? What would you have done? I just used silicone as the adhesive. Really, gravity probably would have done a pretty good job, but that substance you saw me putting down was silicone.
Wow, perfect.
So to mount these top posts, you see I'm getting everything nice and plumb and level and how I want it. Then I'm going to drill, then put in my carriage bolts.
There's a Facebook group.
Again, hand tighten everything, then tighten everything with my socket. So the way I slid that riser back in, I cut out that white face you see. I cut that out, I slid that riser back in, then I put the white piece back on. I don't think you can really tell, but again, what do you think? Were lag bolts better? All right, now we're gonna measure for the white decorative piece that goes on over these pressure treated newel posts. So I'm gonna transfer that mark onto my plastic newel post. Mark a straight line, and then hopefully cut a straight line. All right, now it's time for everybody's favorite part, cutting handrails. But don't worry, I have a can't miss method. Okay, with our little stick here, we also find the angle of the handrail. Scribe this line. So we can take that off. So we can take that off and take that to the miter saw and cut it, and that will be the angle of the handrail. Another thing to note with these plastic handrails is that these the holes are in a specific location for the balusters, so you have to make sure that they line up with that bottom section too. Otherwise, you kind of got a mess on your hands. Ask me how I know. I'm taking a precise eyeball guesstimate of the stair spindle, and then I'm just going to finish the cut with a grinder. All right, so I didn't talk about how I found the height of the railing. And I found the height of the railing with the use of this little stick here. I placed this stick on the nose of each of these treads. So this is the angle of the stairs. So I need to be 34 inches from the nose of the tread up. That's the height of my handrail. But the problem is the handrail's back here. So how do I find that? If I were to measure from the base of the tread, the height's gonna be wrong. I need to follow my stair angle. So I'm gonna be 34 inches across the whole length of my stick here. So 34 inches is code.
we actually went 32 inches. Grandma's a little bit short, so we figured this would be a little bit a nicer handrail height. So all along the bottom of this tread up is 32 inches. We're at 32 inches here. That's great. We're at 32 inches here. So that's how I found the height.
I'm trimming out the steps with white PVC trim. Here's a look at it. It's about 3/8 thick, so it's not too thick. It's lightweight, and really it's just a veneer I'm putting on the steps, and I think it looks pretty nice. It was easy to work with. You see here I'm just scribing the fit, and I just secured it with a couple thin white screws. Now we're almost done. To make this thing to code, we actually need something called a graspable handrail. So that's a handrail that you can actually grab onto. The one we put doesn't fit code, so I'm just making a quick handrail out of wood. I painted it, and you see here that's the finished look. And I'm just going to clamp it, secure it with some wood glue and a thin screw. But just to make sure I don't have to come back, I actually ended up putting a thin dowel in there too. I mean, it took a couple seconds. Here's a look at the dowel. It's called a Miller Dowel. So I just screwed a hole for the dowel and tapped it in there, and I think it just ensures that it's going to be sturdy and it's not going to go anywhere. So this is what we're going to screw our handrail into. You see there's a void space between the plastic and the wood. So that was something I was worried about. I didn't want to crack the plastic after all this work. So you see here I'm putting some shims in there. So I'm filling that void space with wood. So I found my location, and then I'm just screw through that wood so it's nice and solid. Now we have a couple decorative caps there. It's a little solar cap. And we're done. I think it looks pretty good. Hit me up in the comment section if you got any questions, and we'll see you on the next one. Hey, smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. See you next one.